was it just one time or two times?
I believe it was we did 2019 and 2020 got canceled. So
Okay.
we wanted to do 2020.
Well, there was a drive-through, drive-by Pride event.
Might have been that might have been it in 2020.
Yeah.
In the lockdowns.
So the Safe Passage had started stuff, and then from that event, I don't remember how we grew it, but it was like, hey, this is something, and it was well received, and let's see if we can grow this, in the community. So last year, it was, hey, let's just try, kind of a small event, show a free movie, have a little Pride march, give out some stuff. And it went extremely well. I don't remember, 250, 300 people last year. And it was just, we had, families, all ages, and it was just extremely heartwarming of, the amount of, I was working at a concession stand downstairs, the amount of teenagers and even college students that came up and said, thank you for having this. This is the first time that I felt like I was seen, heard, and welcomed, in DeKalb County. We had people that it was their first, Pride events of anything. There was an individual at the very beginning, was one of the first people that came in, came over by concessions and was talking with me and was just like shaking and was nervous and, had never been to something, wasn't here with anyone else. And we had somebody in the panel discussion that told us he came in from the suburbs to attend the event and had to lie to his parents on where he was going that night because they wouldn't have supported him coming to the event. So it was very reaffirming for every single one of us involved, like, this is important, this needs to happen in DeKalb County. So we had a wrap-up meeting last year, talked about what went well, what didn't, how do we continue to grow this. We were mindful that we're an all-volunteer organization and have no money, and so it was how do we continue to grow this without biting off more that we can chew, because there was lots of exciting ideas. It's like, well, if we try and jump that far in year 2, we'll probably fail, and then it'll all go away. So one of the ideas this year was to try and help promote and celebrate other events going on as well. So we were fortunate that Hometown Sports Bar and Grill was having drag night this coming Saturday?
The 18th.
Yeah.
This coming Saturday.
They were also going to have a Pride.
Oh, there's Sarah.
They were also going to have a Pride party.
They had actually combined that with a drag night.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Those are all age events?
No, that's a 21 plus because it's a bar.
Oh, yeah.
But then we partnered with the Sycamore Library to do a family-friendly event. So we talked about doing, because last year we just did the movie in the March, because we're like, well, let's just start with one. Where can we go from here? And so that this year we were like, well, let's partner with libraries. Let's partner with, so we have a 21 and plus, we have an 18 plus event, and then we very much have a youth event with the Sycamore Public Library.
And then we weren't able to last year because of timing, but we do Rocky Horror Picture Show here, usually about 4 times a year.
We attend.
Okay.
We love
We
Rocky.
come from Chicago to see it.
Oh, I love
Awesome.
that.
So we were excited to be able to do a Pride themed one, which there's really nothing that's different.
He's already
Awesome cast that we have, very supportive of everything. So we're doing that. So it kind of started to curate kind of this week of events. So we knew we wanted to do the Pride March again. And then there were discussions of last year, we did a very lighthearted, fun film with Love, Simon. And so, this year the discussion very early on was to look at doing a more serious film, to have a more serious conversation. And that's where, this film came about. So I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in with kind of,
I was going to say that in addition to last year's film being lighthearted, it was also very upper middle class. It was very white. It was very privileged. It was very sort of like Hollywood storybook. And many of us on the committee also felt pretty dedicated to, maybe Jennifer Garner and beautiful, I don't know his name, beautiful male model guy who plays the dad. Like, not all of us have parents like that and live in humongo houses in the burbs. And so a priority was to help sort of balance the scale a little bit, I think, to feature storylines that don't include such heightened privilege, that don't include, the experience of a cis white gay man as the centerpiece. So that's just one other thing I would contribute. That was a real, I'll speak personally for me, that was a real priority.
And I do remember that when we were talking that we wanted to maybe expand a little bit more into trans rights this year, just because we wanted to make sure that we have a wide, representation of individuals at Pride. And I think that also we, live in a world where we believe that, there's always issues where it's like sex work is real work, and a lot of times when we have individuals where it's like, okay, their parents kick them out, they, because of the color of their skin, were not able to receive proper education, or racism consistently couldn't hold down jobs, or again, because maybe they're a trans individual, people won't hire them, things like that. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. And so sex work is, in my opinion, real work. You know what I mean? It's really this, and I had a quote from Hood Feminism, which is a fantastic book, but it talks about how respectability narratives discourage us from addressing the needs of sex workers, incarcerated women, or anyone else who's had to face hard life choices. No woman has to be respectable to be valuable. We can't demand that people work in order to live, then demand that they be respected only if they do work that doesn't challenge our outdated ideas around women's right to control their bodies. So I really like that part that says, like, no woman has to be respectable to be valuable. I feel like the individuals in this film are still very valuable and pieces of a story. We can't. And also, when we talk about the film, the goal is, Frankie's going to introduce it. The goal is to contextualize this and say, hey, we know this doesn't represent everybody. We know this doesn't represent everyone in the community. But Trinity brought up that we would be remiss if we did not address those individuals who go through hard times and have to go through really hard lives. I do see Trinity has their hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Trinity.
Yeah, whenever I can speak.
Thank you. I kind of wanted to highlight that point at the end, really, of we wouldn't be doing them justice if we don't talk about the ones who have had to face harder lives so we can get where we are. I think that a lot of whitewashing has happened in queer history that I'm not for, and that was one of the things that I had discussed on the Love Simon panel, is that this is a white story, a very, very privileged white story that not a lot of us, especially people of color, especially trans people of color, can live up to. And really trying to balance the scale that Frankie had said was the priority within choosing this movie. Personally, I am an addict. I am very much still queer. My addiction is woven, it's part of my identity. Those two are not separate. A lot of the struggles I had of my addiction came from not being accepted and being in a marginalized community, especially as a Black person. And I think it's important when we have these conversations not to try and say who's queer or whose queer stories can be talked about. I think that going forward, we have to keep that in mind, just to keep everybody in the community, give them their justice that they do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so first off, as a person who has been